Hi, my name's Andrew and this is Earth Live, a webcast featuring interviews with people working on the front lines of conservation. Today I'm joined with Roger Featherstone of the Arizona Mining Reform Coalition. How you doing, Roger?
Good. Good afternoon, Andrew.
And it's a pleasure to speak to you today at the Native American Heritage Day.
It is.
Excellent. Are you guys celebrating that?
Yes. We only wish that the upper echelons of government and the Forest Service and these mining companies would also celebrate it.
So can you tell us a little bit about what you guys do at your organization?
Well, our purpose is threefold. One is we look at new mining proposals to make sure that if mining happens, it's of a net benefit to our communities and the environment. We watchdog existing mines to make sure they don't mess things up. And then we work to reform both state and federal mining regulations to kind of make sure that our communities and the environment is protected.
Thanks for that clarification. So we're talking to you today about an issue that you've got in Arizona, and apparently there was a land transfer done by Barack Obama where he signed the land over from the Apaches in Arizona to a company called Resolution Copper. And this was done via the National Defense Authorization Act. Is that a normal or typical way to transfer land?
No, nothing about this mining proposal is normal. The U.S. Forest Service that manages the public land where Oak Flat exists commonly does land transfers, but they're done administratively and not by Congress. In this case, it was done by the mining companies to get around our normal permitting process. Instead of starting that process, they spent 10 years going to Congress for the special use legislation. After 12 failed attempts, they finally made it in number lucky 13 for them.
Wow, so this has been going on for quite some time then.
Yeah, this struggle began in 2004. So we've been at it 16 years now.
Wow. So can you tell us a little bit more about the Oak Flat, the land above? Why is this sacred?
Yeah, it's a mesa basically that rises about 1,000 foot above the desert floor surrounding it. So it's cooler in the summer. And before European colonization, the native peoples were nomadic in the area, and they would travel through there and spend the summers there.
And so Resolution Copper, they're looking to use a mining process called block caving. So can you tell us a little bit why that's so damaging to the environment and to the site itself?
Well, block cave mining is an upside down open pit. The deposit in question is huge. It's a cubic mile in diameter and it's located a mile underground. So rather than going in at the top and digging down, they start at the bottom and work their way up. In the process, the ground collapses and you get subsidence at the surface. And then you have to pump all of the water in the surrounding area away to keep the mine dry. You get the same amount of waste as you do with an open pit operation, toxic waste. You use just as much or more water, and the pollution is harder to control underground. So it's easier for the company because it's cheaper, but it's bad for everything else.
So I understand the San Carlos Apache Tribal Council, they're seeking guarantees from Resolute Copper that this Oak Flat site won't be damaged. Is that guarantee forthcoming, or what's the position of Resolution Copper?
No, I mean, Resolution Copper, Rio Tinto, and BHP have always maintained, first they've maintained for years that the area wasn't sacred, and now they say that just part of it's sacred, even though they know better. Because our cultural preservation laws are pretty weak here in the U.S., the Resolution Copper is basically saying, you know, we want to look good by appealing to you, but we really don't care what you do. The Native American perspective is this area is way too important to fall into private ownership and to be destroyed. Because it's for the San Carlos, it's the center of their religion.
And so you mentioned Rio Tinto, the parent company of Resolute Copper. They're no stranger to challenges. They were recently caught up in the destruction of a ancient rock shelter. In fact, it was 46,000 years old in Juukon Gorge in Australia. This led to a revolt by shareholders and the resignation of the CEO and two other executives. I'm just going to quote a statement that was made by their chairman at the time, and it says that we are determined to ensure that the destruction of a heritage site of such exceptional archaeological cultural significance never occurs again at a Rio Tinto operation. Has this impacted what's going on for you guys, or has it not made any difference?
So far, no. And a lot of people, it has caused people to raise eyebrows. I mean, what Rio Tinto's chairman of the board said is exactly what the plan of operations is for Resolution Copper. So one of two things has to be true here. Either Rio Tinto is lying and doesn't mean what they say, or at some point in time, sooner hopefully than later, they'll have to abandon this project, because you can't do what the chairman of the board says in mine Oak Flat. Got to be one or the other.
Of course. I understand that in March 2016, the US Forestry Service added Oak Flat to the National Register. Has that helped in any way?
Yes and no. It's important because for the first time, the Forest Service not only recognizes the sacredness of Oak Flat, the Forest Service actually helped the tribes in that petition. So from that standpoint, the Forest Service is clear, the U.S. government is clearly on record of recognizing that all of Oak Flat, the entire shape of Oak Flat, is sacred, all the area that would be destroyed. Unfortunately, our cultural preservation laws are so weak that basically as long as Rio Tinto and BHP catalog the damages, they can still go ahead and destroy it.
Wow. Yeah, crazy. So I understand the US is not a signatory to the United Nations Declaration of Rights of Indigenous People. How has that impacted your mission?
It speaks to the problem we've had all along on this, is the U.S. government, both in practice, in treaties, and in laws, just doesn't recognize the rights of the people that were here first. And because those laws are weak, we're kind of in the situation we're in right now. If the government recognized the treaty and actually lived up to its obligations, I think we would see stronger laws and regulations, and we would see a whole different scenario here at Oak Flat. But, right now we play the cards we're dealt.
And I understand also that there was a recent act, the Save the Oak Flat Act, bit of a tongue twister, was recently put into law. How has that helped as well?
That has been introduced in both the U.S. House and the Senate every year since the land exchange law was enacted. It hasn't yet moved through Congress because of lack of will, usually by Senate Republicans. But it's still there. Every year it's introduced. It has more co-sponsors, and hopefully we'll have time to move that in when the next Congress starts in next year.
Are you seeing any difference, or hoping for a difference, between the Trump administration and President-elect Biden?
I think as far as tenor, we can see a lot of difference. I think we might end up with a president that actually cares about a lot of things, in our situation, since the Forest Service, because of political pressure from the Trump administration, is rushing to exchange the land, to give Oak Flat to this foreign mining company. It's kind of a race against time. If the Forest Service does their job right, we'll have enough time for the Biden administration actually to make changes should they choose to do so. However, that's exactly what the companies and the Trump administration is trying to avoid by giving Rio Tinto the land first.
And in some final remarks, do you have any advice or thoughts that you'd like to pass on to the board of Rio Tinto and Resolution Copper on behalf of the communities?
Yes, this proposal has been and always will be a failed proposal, a failed experiment. Excuse me. And this has never been done anywhere in the world. The only even comparable mine, which is shallower and smaller in Mongolia, Rio Tinto is having immense problems building the block cave operation. So if they can't pull that off at 4,000 feet, how can they pull it off at 7,000 feet? On top of that, you have the sacredness of the area, and you don't have enough water to go around for the mine, for existing communities, new communities, for agriculture, and for the plants and animals at Oak Flat. So this will not work, and we hope that the board will realize that before the land is transferred and before any destruction is done. I would remind the board of directors of both of Rio Tinto especially, they own 10% of the Pebble mine that was just, permits were just denied for that up in Alaska. They walked away from that, and they not only walked away from it, they gave their shares in that mining proposal to the native corporations and villages that were opposed to it. So Rio Tinto has precedent for walking away from a bad deal. And we urge them to do so, and we urge them to do that immediately.
Excellent. Well, Roger, thank you so much for your time today and explaining to us what is going on, and we wish you the best of luck and for the Apache people as well. Take care.
Well, thank you, Andrew, and we'll keep plugging away until we make sure that Oak Flat is forever protected.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed the content today and would like to watch more videos like this, please subscribe to our social media channels or join us at www.f.live/join.